This video is sponsored by MUBI, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from all around the globe. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/JonathanFuji. What the hell is this? Why is it only New York or LA? Like, every time. I want equality. As if it's so easy to just freaking fly over to LA and just watch it there. Michael Cera was born on June 7th, 1988 in Brampton, Ontario. Born of Sicilian descent, I don't think there's a high-profile filmmaker that I have a weirder connection to than Wes Anderson. He feels like the most famous indie director of all time. Even my friends who aren't into movies at all recognize his name and his style. And I so badly want to fall in love with his movies and stories, but I have trouble sometimes. It's really a roller coaster ride with how I feel about him as a filmmaker. I remember when I started to watch his stuff for the first time, I was like, is he actually overrated? As I didn't care too much about some of his work. But then as time went by after watching, I had this itch to rewatch them and go through more, and I ended up loving a lot of them. Only to go back again and think, you know what, maybe I was right the first time. And he might be the filmmaker whose style gets dissected more than anybody. It's iconic, and it's so much more than just being symmetrical. But as we are on movie number 12 now, not to mention his short films, his style might be wearing thin on some people. I've noticed that some just aren't as amused or captivated by that signature style and look of his movies. And it's weird for me because movies of his that other people adore, I sometimes find a little tedious. While other movies people told me aren't his best, I find pretty captivating. Bottom line is, I never know how I'm going to respond to a Wes Anderson movie. And low-key, that's kind of exciting to me as an audience member. Well, in comes The Phoenician Scheme, a movie I traveled to and spent lots of money to see. It follows a wealthy businessman who appoints his only daughter to be his sole heir after having troubles with assassins and business tycoons. And after getting a fairly tepid response out of Cannes, I had no idea if I'd like it or not, and I ended up walking away from the movie really liking it. Maybe I'm back. Maybe I'm the Wes Anderson stan now, okay? Everyone else can go away, all right? Wes, I got you. I don't know what it is about me and these Wes Anderson films that most other people seem to think is okay that I end up really liking, but The Phoenician Scheme I thought was great. It is a perfect encapsulation to me of why people like Wes Anderson. Aside from his still iconic style, the incredible cinematography, the incredible production design and costumes, the star-studded ensemble, it works both as just an entertaining, funny movie, but also has a lot of resonant themes that I feel Wes Anderson is trying to say, and that just makes it interesting. One thing I don't really care for about Wes Anderson films is his overindulgence on overcomplicating things, whether that's through the framework or the actual story itself. And whether you like his past movies or not, I feel like that's been one of the complaints from his previous two with the anthology of The French Dispatch or the framework of Asteroid City. And to me, as someone who weirdly liked The French Dispatch, but I couldn't really connect to Asteroid City, The Phoenician Scheme hits a nice sweet spot because it is pretty simple and streamlined. And I don't mean that in terms of the story itself is very straightforward and there's nothing to chew on, but in terms of just not overcomplicating things. To me, this movie is way more focused on A, what it's trying to say with its themes, and B, which characters he wants to use to emphasize that. And I think using a clear protagonist and a father-daughter relationship is just a very smart call. Having a protagonist is sometimes just nice as an audience member, I'm not gonna lie. I like big ensembles, but sometimes it is nice to have a clear protagonist to really hold on to. In my personal opinion, some of Wes Anderson's best films have a clear protagonist, whether that is The Grand Budapest Hotel or Fantastic Mr. Fox, the two films that I personally resonate with the most. And this falls right into that with Benicio del Toro's character, who on the surface seems like he is a very simple character as a business tycoon who is probably a morally corrupt person who is now trying to rekindle his relationship with his daughter. But really, there's a lot more going on there that I personally really like. But we'll get into that in a bit. To me, this is his funniest film since Grand Budapest Hotel. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I'm sorry, if you're going to include a whole basketball bit as a method of negotiation with Tom Hanks, Riz Ahmed, and Bryan Cranston, amongst many other people, I'm going to laugh. Having the stakes be pretty high on what this movie is trying to accomplish, ride off essentially a game of horse, that's just speaking to me personally. I did not know I needed to see Bryan Cranston dribble awkwardly into a layup, but now that I have seen it, I can't imagine my life without it. The bits in here, whether they are big, like a whole basketball set piece essentially, or if they're small, like simply arguing with every single person he meets, they just tickle me. I don't know. But I would be remiss if I did not mention the secret sauce of this movie, the man on my shirt, Michael Cera. He has been getting praised pretty universally throughout this movie. Some saying he's the MVP, saying that he walks away from this movie. And all I can say is, I was here first. There is something so nice about imagining an actor doing so well and fitting in perfectly with Wes Anderson's style of dialogue and comedy, and then when it actually happens, it's better than you thought it was going to be. He definitely gets the most laughs out of the whole movie, from his thick accent to his character, which takes pretty unexpected turns without spoiling anything. And it would be a huge mistake if he did not lead the next Wes Anderson movie. Hollywood needs to remember that this man was once a leading man, okay? Hashtag superbad for life. Benicio del Toro is a Wes Anderson staple at this point, and he leads the film perfectly. And Mia Threepleton, apologize if I mispronounced that, she is excellent too. And maybe I like this a little bit more just because this film is his least ensemble-y in a bit. It's a very clear pecking order where Benicio del Toro and Mia Threepleton is the clear two protagonists, Michael Cera's next, and then everybody else. But as I mentioned, yes, this movie just works if you just want a simple little entertaining, funny, charming movie, but there is still a lot in here that Wes Anderson is trying to say. Does it go as in-depth, or does it hit as hard as those who love Asteroid City? Maybe not. But I personally love how this was displayed more in a pretty touching way, if I'm being real. Because to me, this movie is about quite a few things. It's about one's own past and how that affects your present and future. It's about fatherhood, and it's about whether you can be wealthy and powerful while also being a good person. One of the little moments that I like the most in the Phoenician scheme is Benicio del Toro's character will sometimes reference what his father would tell him, which you can see in the poster itself. If something gets in your way, flatten it, amongst other things. And those little lines of dialogues does give the audience hints as to what his childhood must have been like and who his father was. And as the movie progresses and you get a little bit deeper into his character, you can see that he has led most of his life because of that. And it took a near-death experience to really come to reckon with that, which is why he is so desperately trying to bring his only daughter along for the ride and give everything to her. And a lot of these scenes are intercut with others depicting the afterlife or heaven, where they talk about other moments in his life which lead the audience to believe that he is a morally corrupt, at times evil person. And I like how Wes Anderson explored dealing with the consequences and repercussions of living that kind of life, no matter how much money it has garnered you. I mean, there's a whole bit about him giving live hand grenades as a greeting gesture. His whole Phoenician scheme, where he goes around with his daughter and Michael Cera to these different assassins or business tycoons or family, trying to get everyone to agree on a deal. Their whole journey that they embark on is really just an elaborate, funny, whimsical, and an only Wes Anderson kind of way of asking what it means to be both wildly successful and good, and if that's even possible. I like how this movie takes on legacy, and you can decide what you want your legacy to be. That is personally what I take away from it and why I resonated so deeply with that, along with it being a pretty sweet moment of just being a good father, or trying to be at least. Yes, there are moments where, I'll be honest, I didn't understand what the goal was of this scene. Things kind of go over your head at that breakneck pace that Wes Anderson is used to. A lot of people find this movie cold and distant with some of its characters, and I get that. And again, Wes Anderson's style with how he likes to shoot might not help with that. But to me, that coldness kind of faded away as I started to see what the movie was revealing itself to be. And it revealed itself to be just a good movie. The Phoenician Scheme, 4 stars. I think I need to give some of his other movies a rewatch because they're kind of perfect if you're like me and suffer from don't know what to watch-itis. And if that's the case, you can use this video sponsor, MUBI. MUBI is a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating incredible cinema from all around the globe. There's always something new to discover, from iconic directors to emerging auteurs. With MUBI, each and every film is hand-selected by a team of in-house curators, where on each film, you can see a little excerpt from them detailing why said film could be worth your time. I have already added so many new films to my watch list just from browsing, and even found a few favorites of mine, like Monster, which was featured on my top 10 movies of 2023. Hirokazu Koreeda is one of the best directors working today, and I know a lot of people didn't get a chance to see it, and it's right there for you on MUBI, just right there. With MUBI, you can discover the best of cinema at your fingertips, streaming anytime, anywhere. And you can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/JonathanFuji. That is mubi.com/JonathanFuji for a whole month of great cinema for free.